We are going to see this morning where a Gentile woman seeks out Jesus for help. What is, by definition, what's a Gentile? That's the quickest, simple answer. Anyone who is not a Jew.
Referred to as heathens a lot of times in the Bible.
Yes. We're
That's what I was called.
I think we're gonna have some time to get into that, but I mean that's the I was gonna say elephant in the room, and then I'm gonna say that's the almost an intangible thing that's not spoken of directly here, but this woman was somewhat considered a second-class citizen just from her birth, just from who she was by birth. But yes, Gentile is anything other than a Jew. Gentile is pagan. It was not what we would consider today Christian, so she was on the other side. So she was seeking out Jesus for help. What kind of help was she seeking? Another broad answer. Yes, that's the specific, but any kind of help for her daughter. We've spoken about this in several of the studies where people's children were sick or this or that. What they will do anything that they could to try to help them. So she was seeking any kind of help, and as we're going to see, but she was seeking that for her daughter. But of course, it was miraculous help, is what it's going to be. Because what's our study for the entire quarter that we're almost done with? The miracles of Jesus. We are on the next to the last lesson. So, miracles of Jesus. And what, of course, again, is our definition of a miracle? What is a miracle?
Outside of natural occurrences.
Yes. Anything that defies nature, anything that defies scientific explanation is a miracle. So, as we said before, not people's standard. Oh, it's a miracle that this happened. No, that was, talking about something that really can't be explained. And we're going to see that again this morning. But this morning is more like the circumstances that we're going to be more focused on around it and leading up to that miracle. Lesson text, Matthew 15 actually begins at verse 21. I'm going to back up and really quickly cover the first few verses. So I'm going to start verse 1 in Matthew 15 just quickly, just to set the scene some. Then the scribes and Pharisees who were from Jerusalem came to Jesus. Were they in Jerusalem right then? Were Jesus and the apostles in Jerusalem when the scribes and Pharisees who were from Jerusalem came to them? I don't think so. I think they were. The point is, the scribes and Pharisees once again are seeking out Jesus. They are after him. So,
The scribes and the Pharisees were from Jerusalem.
yes. The scribes and Pharisees were. They had, once again, this isn't the first time we see this. We see this over and over again. They're like, we're going to find him and cause trouble. Verse 2, why do your disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they do not wash their hands when they eat bread. He answered and said to them, why do you also transgress the commandment of God? Because of your tradition. For God commanded, saying, honor your father and mother. And he who curses his father and mother, let him be put to death. But you say, whoever says to his father or mother, whatever profit you might have received from me is a gift to God, then he need not honor his father and mother. Thus you have made the commandment of God of no effect by your tradition. Hypocrites. Well, did Isaiah prophesy about you, saying, verse 8, these people draw near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me, and in vain they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men. When he had called the multitude to himself, he said to them, hear and understand, not what goes into the mouth that defiles a man, but what comes out of the mouth, this defiles a man. Then his disciples came and said to him, do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this saying? they were asking it as an actual question, but I think it's more like rhetorical.
Today's answer is like, do I care?
Do I care? Yes. He didn't give a direct answer back, did he? But he answered and said, every plant which my heavenly Father has not planted will be uprooted. Let them alone. That's the let them alone is almost like so. They are blind leaders of the blind, and if the blind leads the blind, both will fall into a ditch. Then Peter answered and said to him, explain this parable to us. So Jesus said, are you also still without understanding? Do you not yet understand that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and is eliminated, but those things which proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and they defile a man? For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witnesses, and blasphemies. These are the things which defile a man, but to eat with unwashed hands does not defile a man. So that the details of that are a study unto themselves. The point is, who'd been accosting Jesus while he was trying to teach to the multitudes? The scribes and the Pharisees. What had been happening? He was trying to teach to people who wanted to hear, but other people were accosting him, bothering him. So that's the point that we have to, the thing that we have to get in our mindset about the scenario, what's going on here when we start with verse 21. Would someone please read Matthew 15 verses 21 through 23? Okay, thank you. Depends on which version you're reading. Our study guide is New King James, I believe. Verse 21, then Jesus went out from there. Where had he been? We just saw what he'd been dealing with, right? Our study guide brings us out. Where was the majority of Jesus' ministry done? Around the sea of what? Yes. A lot of it around the Sea of Galilee, around Judea, around Jerusalem. But what type of people, what kind of religion, would we say, was in that area? Jewish people. So they were Jewish. So it's one of those things. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes it's harder talking to people that are of your same mindset than people that are completely opposed to you. But that's where he was. He was among other Jews. Then Jesus went out from there and departed to the region of Tyre and Sidon. It says that Tyre and Sidon were about 30 miles away. Well, Starkville's 30 miles away. That's hop in the car. It's only 30 minutes.
Camel and foot, it's a long way.
Yeah, and very likely not by camel for them, right? Very likely by foot with sandals that were a piece of just a flat thing with a couple of strings over it. Study guide said it could have taken a very long time. They went a long, long way away. So they departed to the region of Tyre and Sidon, which study guide said is north of Galilee. Verse 22, and behold, a woman of Canaan came from that region and cried out to him. So we said where they were originally, they're surrounded by Jewish people, so they've gone to the land of Tyre and Sidon. We said the woman is what? She's not Jewish, she's what?
Gentile.
Canaanite. Pagan. She's not one of us. would be the mindset of most people. So she went to Tyre and Sidon. I might have been watching a little bit of football last night while I was doing some of this.
According to Facebook, you was watching a lot of football. Because I've been watching football and the Facebook. So.
My throat is tickling and hurts. I was telling Heather I did a lot of screaming last night.
It was a good day.
So I wrote down, so they went to Tyre and Sidon, not to belittle this point, but I wrote in here Gentile country. Right? There's a movie. There was a line that stuck in my head. It's called where they said we're strangers in a strange land. They were really out of their element. They were not in a place where they normally went.
Do you think that the disciples were a little prejudiced too, since she was not one of them?
Yes.
I mean, they were human.
Yes.
And
We're
they discarded her.
we're gonna see that. That's gonna get. It's not even fleshed out in the verse, but you can just read their. Yeah, the way they're raising their lips and the way they're shoving her off. We'll get to that. I believe you are correct. 22, and behold, a woman of Canaan came from that region and cried out to him, saying, what? Mercy on me, O Lord, son of who? Is that important? But she's a Gentile. She's a heathen, and she still what? She still knows this. She's still made a point to say it. My daughter is, and depending on your translation, my daughter is severely demon-possessed. I got hung up on that for a second. Why do they have severely in there? I don't know. I told Heather, Heather just looked at me kind of blankly. I said, severely demon-possessed? I mean, what's the difference in between being, I'm demon-possessed, my daughter's demon-possessed, or she is severely demon-possessed?
She probably couldn't even function outside of the bed or, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some of these others we've seen, they were at least able to walk around and...
It's true.
And no help for her. Nobody could do anything about it.
Even today, you have levels of autism.
It's true. Yeah.
Mildly autistic, severely autistic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's just a level.
Really, yeah. She, at the end of her rope, maybe, who knows? Severe, no, I got to look up the definition for every word. Severely is to an undesirably great or intense degree. So yeah, really, really bad. But he answered her, what? What did Jesus say to her right there? Nothing. That seemed cold, right? And his disciples came and urged him, saying, what?
Send her away.
For she cries out after us. Were they prejudiced? Were they, whatever words you want to use? Did they want to deal with her? Does it sound like, yeah, they were compassionate at all, or they cared? Send her away. Make her leave. As you said, they were only human. And it shows right there, they have no compassion for this woman, in spite of her pleas. Saying, send her away, for she cries out after us. It doesn't give a time frame. Do y'all think it was like a couple minutes, and then she was like, how long do you think this might have been? It could have been days. It could have been minutes, hours, but it could have been a long, long, long time.
I wonder how long the mother had been searching for Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
They said, she came from Canaan. Nothing this way. She came seeking him, no matter where he might be.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mother's love.
Yes. Verse 24, but he answered and said, what? Somebody read verse 24.
I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
That seems meaner in verse 23. So Jesus answered her not a word when this woman is begging. And in verse 24, Jesus said, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Who's the house of Israel? The Jews. Yes, sir.
If I may on that, I had a reference on Matthew 10:5-6. Said, these 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentile, and into any city of Samaria enter you not. And I think 6 says, hold on. But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I just had a reference on that. That's really what she was talking about.
Who was the word for? Who first, then the...
Jews into the Gentiles.
When the Jews rejected him, when they crucified him,
Yes.
that's when it was opened up to the Gentiles, didn't it?
I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Then she came and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. Verse 26, but he answered and said, it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs. When you read this, it reads really harshly, but Jesus is the master teacher, right? We're getting to something. The children's bread represents what? Who are the children? What does that represent? Jews. Children of Israel. That's the children. What is the bread? The word. So, the children's bread is the Jews, or the children of Israel's word, the message to them. So it's not good to take that and throw it to the little dogs. If you call someone a dog, is that good, usually?
It's not a compliment.
It's not a compliment. So, to the little dogs here, he's speaking of to, once again, not Jews, Gentiles. I had harsh written with a question mark. Is that, or is, but is it a direct no? Did Jesus say no? Was it teaching? We said Jesus is the master teacher. Is this a form of teaching? I told y'all when I was in school for landscape architecture, they would never tell us what they wanted. It was infuriating. Like, just tell us what you want. Nope. But you do something, they tell us what they didn't want, and let you figure out the rest. They would let you figure out what they did want. It stuck, and it did. Go ahead.
If you learn something on your own, you retain it better than somebody sits here that may show you a problem 100 times on the board. But when you figure it out on your own paper, you got it.
And you value it more because you come to that conclusion and to that truth yourself. That's one of the best ways to study with somebody who doesn't believe isn't to tell them this and this and this and this and this. Even though it might be true, you go to Scripture, you go to verses and say, what does this say? What does that mean? So, it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs. Was it teaching? Was he, are we actually, if you think about it, was he trying to pull out her true intentions? Tough love. 27. Someone read 27 for me, please.
She said, yes, Lord, yet even the little dogs eat the crumbs which fall from their master's table.
And she's a, what type of person? What kind of religion? What's her belief? What's her, not a Jew. She's not supposed to know this stuff, right? She's not the chosen people. She's not supposed to know this. She had to come to this how? How did she have to realize this? How did she have to come to all these, this understanding? She had to seek it out, right? She had to come to it on her own. Yet even the little dogs, what was she saying there? Was she admitting that, was she taking his analogy and admitting that it was correct. Did that elevate herself, or did that lower herself?
She called herself a dog.
No, but she humbled herself. Eat the crumbs, once again, it's the word. She would take anything that she could get. Whether she would take just bits of the word if that's all she was allowed to have, which fall from their master's table. We're going to go to this in some other verses and bring some other stuff out. Then Jesus answered and said to her, O woman, great is your faith. Let it be to you as you desire. And her daughter was healed when? Right then, as we've seen several times. So, we see that she went to Jesus. She sought him out. She pursued him, admitted her unworthiness, and said that she would accept what Jesus had to offer. That's almost a little bit a reflection of, or a little bit of a type of the plan of salvation. Is it not? Since we're studying on the miracles of Jesus, verses 29 through 31, Jesus departed from there, skirted the Sea of Galilee, and went up to the mountain and sat down there. Why did he sit? Because he was tired? How did they teach back then? Got up on a rock, went on the hillside and sat down. I'm ready to teach. The great multitudes came to him, having with them the lame, the blind, mute, maimed, and many others, and they laid them down at Jesus' feet, and he healed them. So the multitudes marveled at what they saw, when they saw the mute speaking, and the maimed made whole, the lame walking, and the blind seeing, and they glorified the God of Israel. After that, we see the feeding of the 4,000. So, miracles, miracles, miracles.
She comes with the same attitude that the Roman centurion had.
Yes, sir.
I'm not worthy, but can you help?
It wasn't thank you, it was rude.
Will you? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I thought of that during the study. It's the same mindset.
Colin, one thing Travis and I talk about a lot is how Jesus reacted to different people. So like at the beginning of the story, we see how he reacted to the Pharisees when they ask him that question, and he sparks right back with the question for them. But then you see how he acts with this woman, and then you see how he acts with like the woman at the well. So he reacts different to different people because he knows their hearts and their intentions.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's okay if someone's attacking you to throw them a question right back like he did with the Pharisees. But then if you're talking with someone who's like a Samaritan, you need to sit down with them, and you need to be gentle, and you need to help them, like you said, come to their own conclusions.
Jesus knew everyone's heart. We're...
Handicapped.
Yes, thank you. That's a really good term. And some people are better at it than other folks. Heather knows people from just like looking at them. Heather's the best judge of character ever. I'm the opposite of that. At the same time, Heather, I don't know if you came up with it or I did. Like, I have no empathy chip. I have to work on my empathy for others. So that's why we have to be very careful, but Jesus did that a lot because he could see people's hearts. Mark 7, that from Matthew is paralleled in Mark chapter 7. Mark chapter 7, verse, a lot of this is very similar. We're going to bring out a few different points, I think. Mark chapter 7, 24 through 30. Would somebody read 24 through 26, please?
And from thence he arose and went into the borders of Tyre and Sidon, and entered into a house, and would have no man know it. But he could not be hid. For a certain woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him, and came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation, and she besought him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter.
Thank you. Verse 24, we saw same places. And he entered a house and would have no man know it. Other translations read, wanted no one to know it, but he could not be hidden. Did Jesus actually have... Did Jesus not have the power to actually be hidden? Maybe I asked the question.
Could he have hidden himself?
Thank you. I can't ask the question straight. Could he have hidden himself? Yes. You brought that out last week when Jesus would be in, people would be after him and the group would be around him and Jesus would just leave. So, could he have hidden himself if he wanted to? Air quotes, wanted. The way we use want. I want something. Could you? Yes, he could have. Wanting and getting are two different things. This might have been when State was down, like 20 points last night. Yes, sir.
You know when he had really, I know this song way down, from the grave, you know, when he had told Mary and her sister, go tell the apostle, you know, he just appeared at the house with them, you know, he didn't show a lot of, he just there, he told them where he's going to be at, and he just appeared.
Yeah, he'd be here and then poof over here.
I'm sure there were times when he wanted to hide himself.
Yes.
Being human and all, I'm sure there were times he wanted to hide himself.
That's what we mean by wanted here. That's what I'm trying to bring out. Thank you. Could Jesus have hidden if he'd really desired to, if he just snapped his fingers? Yes. Was it outside of his power or ability? No. He didn't or couldn't because he knew what had to be done. It's just like in the Garden of Gethsemane. Did he want that cup? Did he want to have to deal with that? He prayed no. He didn't want to, but he knew that it was not solely up to him, but he also knew if it had to be done, he would do it. So that's what we're getting at here. 25, for a woman whose young daughter was an unclean spirit, heard about him, and she came and fell at his feet. The woman was Greek, a Syrophoenician by birth. And as we've said several times, compare that to the Jews who by birth were what?
Heir to kingdom, there was blue book.
What? Once again, I'm asking a crazy question. One of my weird questions. The Jews were the chosen people, right? They knew everything. They had the word. They had everything. They just decided because of who how they were born, that they were the chosen people. One translation reads by birth, another by nation. And she kept asking him to cast the demon out of her daughter. Verse 27, but Jesus said to her, let the children, as we said, that's the Jews, be filled first with the good news, that is, for it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs. As we said earlier, that seems very, very harsh, but that's kind of something that occurred to me. That's more like a comparative than calling someone something. If someone would turn to Luke 14 and read Luke 14:26, please. Luke 4.
If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple.
Hate his father and mother, right? That was in red. The words of Jesus. What did we just read earlier in Matthew 15? When Jesus called the Pharisees hypocrites for doing the same thing. Is Jesus saying to actually hate your father and mother?
No.
What does he mean then?
You've got to be willing to put him in front of them. You still love him, you still respect him, but you've got to do what he says more than what they say now.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Put him first.
Put him first above everything else. To use an expression, everything else must pale in comparison. So much so that you could say, oh, you have to hate them. Well, it's not. It's that much of a difference. And she answered him and said to him, yes, Lord, even the little dogs under the table, eat from the children's crumbs. And he said to her, for this saying, go your way, the demon has gone out of your daughter. And when she'd come to her house, she found the demon gone out, and her daughter lying on the bed. Yes, sir.
For people who claim to cast out demons today, this right here shows that Jesus didn't even have to be in the same room with them.
That's my...
Not even in the same zip code, really, I don't guess, you know.
Not at all.
You know.
That was my last little point. That's the last thing I have down here. We've seen miracle after miracle where he tells someone, do this, do that, you're healed. She wasn't even there. She wasn't even there at all. And how far away was she? Probably a pretty good ways away. So that's a really good way to say it. She wasn't even in the same zip code. She was forever away. You're healed. He spoke it, and it was. That's pretty much it on these verses this morning. Right after that, after verse 30 and 31, Jesus heals a deaf mute. So, again, departing from the region of Tyre and Sidon, he came through the midst of the region of Decapolis to the Sea of Galilee. Then they brought to him one who was deaf and had an impediment in his speech, and they begged him to put his hand on him. And he took him aside from the multitude and put his fingers in his ears. And he spat and touched his tongue. Then, looking up to heaven, he sighed and said to him, somebody please pronounce that word if you have your Bible open. Be opened is the translation. He said to him, be opened. Immediately his ears were opened, and the impediment of his tongue was loosed, and he spoke plainly. Then he commanded them that they should tell no one. But the more he commanded them, what? What happens when you do good things for people? Do they notice?
You want to tell everybody.
They want to tell everyone. Why is the Bible? Why is the word called the good news?
Sometimes you have to wonder if it wasn't reverse psychology.
Yeah, maybe. Don't tell anybody about this. I'm going to tell everybody about it.
As soon as you tell a little kid, hey, don't touch that.
Don't touch that.
Next, then I turn around because the hand going to be headed for it.
Yeah.
But he was also trying to teach the upcoming Christians, don't do things just for people to see it.
Yes.
Whatever you do, just do it. Keep it to yourself. Nobody's business. You're doing it to honor me. And I think he was just sort of trying to plant that. Then when you do something good, you don't have to go out and tell everybody,
look what I did. When you pray where? Go in the closet and pray. Don't be like, I'm praying really hard over here. Just do what you're supposed to do. But the more he commanded them, the more widely they proclaimed it. And they were astonished beyond measure, saying, he has done all things well. He makes both the deaf to hear and the mute to speak.